Well, hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Out of Your Mind with April Adams. We're going to do things a little bit differently today. I've got something very personal to share with you, but I also just want to say at the end of this episode, I'm going to be doing some regression hypnosis. So I'm going to walk you through a process of doing some regression work. And basically, that's for root finding. So a lot of times people don't know what the root memory or root cause of a particular issue or trigger is for them. And so I'll walk you through a regression exercise that you can do that will bring you back to the root moment or root memory related to whatever it is that you need to clear. And you can play with that a little bit and see where that gets you. And then you can always plug in whatever it is you discover with that into the click tracks and your PS tech work. So there's that. But before we get into that, I just want to share something from my own journey with you. So 13, 14 years ago, I was going through a divorce, and I was very much in this place of like, I don't want to stay. I want to leave. I want to do this other thing, but I kind of felt compelled, or my conscience and my logical brain were very much like, you committed to this marriage, you should stay and make it work. And so I was in this battle with myself. And so part of me wanted to leave, part of me felt like I had to stay. And that is the perfect recipe for restless leg syndrome. And that's when my restless leg syndrome began, was when I was going through a divorce and couldn't make myself make a straightforward decision to just go. So what physiologically happens when you get restless leg syndrome is that all of the stress that you have from being at odds with yourself and battling with yourself and your conscience and all of that, is that your electrolytes start to get depleted from all those stress chemicals. So then it's kind of like leg cramps, only it just comes in the form of your muscles kind of rolling or twitching and doing all kinds of weird, very uncomfortable, annoying things. And essentially, once it starts, it's very difficult to make it stop. So there's just like, if there's this extended period of time in your life where you're stressed out, then it's very difficult to make the restless legs go down. So, there have been times up and down where it's kind of improved or gone away for a short period of time, but then it always comes back. I had gotten it under control around 2014 and then got in a car accident where my knee got bent backwards and pretty much started over from scratch from there. And have yet to really get it under control for more than like 4 days in a row, 4 nights in a row since then. So just bear with me for a few minutes while I share this, in case any of you have restless leg syndrome, and in case any of you know some way to get rid of it. Have any of you had restless legs or known somebody who did, who was actually able to completely obliterate it? I would love to hear that, please. So you can send me messages and stuff at askapril@mail.com. So please feel free to send me any remedies you have for restless legs. I'd love to hear it. So far, what I've tried that has worked, or at least works in the moment, stretching and magnesium and other electrolytes. But magnesium you can take internally. You can also get an oil and rub it on your skin. Those things often work to stop it in the moment or prevent for, some period of time. There's arnica gel. That stuff's really good to kind of calm it down in the moment as well. I have these little holographic acupressure stickers, and sometimes if I can figure out where on my leg it's the worst, I'll put it there and it'll often help it. I've also tried CBD oil. That tends to work for a period of time. Sometimes I do Reiki on it, and there are times where that makes it worse, and there are times where it makes it go away. So go figure there. And, just getting really physical and stretching and stuff too. Um, and then some things that I've tried that haven't worked so well, quinine. So, like drinking tonic water and stuff like that when I take my evening supplements, that didn't work at all. And maybe it's just because there's so much damn sugar in tonic water that it just kind of, makes it even worse, because sugar is not good for the restless legs. I've tried 5-HTP to boost serotonin levels, and that just basically makes me kind of drowsy in the morning and makes it hard for me to wake up. I tried hypnosis, and oddly enough, doing hypnosis on it seems to make it worse. And my theory on that is that it's a layer thing. And so it's almost like I would have to keep going, keep going, keep going with the hypnosis until it finally ticked over. But I'm not willing to have that many restless nights in a row in order to wait for that to finally have its way and be able to get rid of it entirely. So I think some part of me unconsciously fights it. And I'm currently trying a dopamine thing that helps to boost your dopamine levels, and taking some amino acids that help with dopamine, and seeing how that goes if I do that long term for a while, and see if that takes care of it. So recently I had a really bad night. Like normally around full moon, half moon, new moon, I often have really bad syndrome, like just it kicks up pretty badly, usually like the night before or the night of, either one of those things. So I did an exercise that I call having a conversation with the pain. And it's not always about pain. It's like whatever the physical disorder or physical issue that you're having is, you can basically go into a subconscious state and have a conversation with the issue and find out what kind of message it's trying to bring you. And I do have a pre-recorded version of having a conversation with the pain, so I'll share that in links. So if you want to play with that, that'll be available to you guys. But essentially, I had a conversation with the restless leg syndrome. And it was kind of weird. It was like very much about like pushing myself a lot. And this huge realization came up that I hadn't even really registered, that ever since I had started doing this podcast, my clients had been going down. So the new people booking in with me, and there's been a bunch of people finishing their packages, but not a ton of new people coming in. And I've done podcasts that used to get me a lot of new clients, and crickets now. And so it seems like ever since I've started doing the podcast, the clientele has gone down as far as recruiting new clients in. And that message was kind of like, when you are promoting yourself as a podcast host, that's how people see you. So they don't see you as a service provider. They see you as a podcast host. And so they may be likely to listen to your podcast for a period of time or something like that. And maybe eventually down the road become a client once they've learned to trust you or whatever. But they're not seeing you as somebody that they could go and get a service with right off the bat. And it may even be they perceive that you might be too expensive, or that you're too booked up, or whatever it is, they automatically go to, that's a podcast host, not a emotional health consultant or therapist or whatever it is that, that podcast host is behind the scenes. And, the other thing that I had noticed is that my restless legs have gotten increasingly worse as I've done this podcast. So that was a little bit of an odd realization. I was like, okay, what are we going to make of that? So I really kind of came to this conclusion, this realization. And those of you that are also entrepreneurs may benefit from this and may find some familiarity here. So the story is, when I first found PS Tech and started using it on myself, I really had amazing results. And so I just started telling all my friends, all my clients, everybody on social media, like, here, go download PS Tech and use it on whatever's bothering you. Use it on whatever, triggers or traumas you have. And they weren't. I mean, they might try it once or twice and not fall in love with it, or they might just be like, it's free. It sounds like a scam. That's not going to work for me, whatever. So I had at that time also been marketing myself, like when I started actually like offering it as a service, I was marketing myself as like, we don't really need that much time together. I just need to introduce you to these tools. And once you have these tools, you can just run with it and you'll be all set. And once again, the clientele went to crickets. It's like, where are all of the clients? I was a very booked person before this. So what I learned, actually, no, there was a whole step that brought this realization to me. I went to this networking event and they taught something called the DISC assessment. Basically, it's like this wheel of personality types kind of thing. And so the speaker said, okay, look at this wheel and figure out where are you on this wheel. And I was very squarely in the D, the D. And that's the action section. Those are people who just like, will take tools and just run with them and are constantly like going and pushing and striving and just are very action oriented. And then the speaker said, all right, now think about some of your favorite clients and look, where are they on this wheel? And lo and behold, my clients were on the opposite end of that wheel. These are people who want relationships. They want nurturing. They want guidance. They want slow, steady results. So I was marketing to the people I wanted to serve as though they were me and they were willing and able to take action on their own without the guidance, without the relationship, without the customization and all of that. So I was advertising to people or marketing to people like that's what they wanted, where what they actually wanted was the customization, the relationship, the guidance. And so once I started marketing to that and asking people to sign up for packages of like certain amounts of time that we were going to spend together with our services, then, business got better increasingly, more and more and more and more and more, just naturally, almost effortlessly, which was kind of mind-blowing considering how hard I had always worked prior to that to try to get clients and keep them and build clientele and all of that. So it was really interesting. Once I realized who my ideal client was, what they were looking for, what their needs were, then I was able to serve them in that way. And I love doing that. But then I started this podcast. And so all over again, here I was going, here's these tools, go use them. And now it's just like all the clients have disappeared again. And I know it's not because all of them have started using PS Tech because they're listening to me on this podcast. I know some of you have, and I'm really happy that, those of you who listen to the podcast and benefit from it and take action on these things and have these epiphanies and things. I love that. I'm really happy that you guys are getting that out of this, but most of you aren't. Most people are not getting, are not taking that level of action. They're not getting what they need out of the podcast because it's not being customized to them. There's not a relationship being built. So it's not serving the people that I really, really came here to serve in the first place. So I've really been kind of sitting with all of that since I did that meditation. And I'm kind of just feeling like, how many freaking times do I have to learn the lesson that I'm here to serve the people who want that service, and to be on the hamster wheel constantly just trying to like tell everybody, hey, here's this podcast, here's this thing that you can go do on your own to fix yourself. I mean, I've done that so many times, giving it away for free, trying to tell people, here's these tools you can go use and apply on your own, when most people aren't willing, able, ready, whatever, to do that on their own. So I don't know how many times I'm going to need that message from the universe before I finally realize, like, I've got to stop doing stuff like that all the time. So I've decided that I'm going to take a break from the podcast for the summer and just see where things go beyond that point. To me, the summer is sacred. I love spending time outside, and essentially, if I'm not with a client, I'm going to be out on the water somewhere with my wife, just enjoying the beautiful weather. So I don't need an extra side project going over the summer. And originally, when I signed up to do this podcast, when I decided I was going to do this podcast, I was kind of doing it like, let's do one season of the show. Let's do October to April and see how it goes. If it gets a really great amount of feedback, if I'm really booked up with guests, if I get 10,000 followers or subscribers, then I'd be happy to continue, and that would be wonderful. But that's not what's been happening. I've gotten little bits of feedback here and there, had a bunch of guests right at the beginning, and then it just sort of petered out. And as much as I'd love to continue helping the small group of people who are action takers and are, doing the work, I also am kind of feeling like this is a lot of work on my end, and there's not a lot of payoff on the back end of it. So I'm going to let it ride for the summer. So it will continue to be up as an audio file in all the major podcast venues, and it will also continue to be up on YouTube. I'm not going to be promoting the podcast anymore. So my social media stuff is going to go back to being April Adams as opposed to Out of Your Mind pod, and stuff like that. So this way it's much more about, here I am, here's what I can do for you. And here are, the services and the wisdom that I can offer you. The podcast will still be available to listen to, but I won't be pushing them and promoting them as much as I typically would, because I don't want the message to be like, here's this podcast you can listen to, and some people get something out of it and some people won't. I want the message to be, I'm here to help. And if you want some help, feel free to reach out. So if you guys really are loving this podcast and getting a ton out of it, help me to get 10,000 followers or subscribers. Help me, to get more guests. Help to, really show me. Tell me what breakthroughs you've had by virtue of doing the things that I've suggested or taught on this podcast, because I can't create in a vacuum. So, I've kind of enjoyed doing it so far. It really hasn't been all that difficult. It's just, it takes extra time out of my life where I could be spending time with family or just practicing some self-care. So the summer, I'm going to take it off. And then this fall, I'll either go back to it and continue it if, enough people really show me that it's worth it and that it's helping that many people. Or this fall, if I'm not feeling it, then I'll probably leave it up on YouTube, but I'll probably take it down everywhere else. So that's kind of where I'm leaving this for now. And so let me know, like, how you're feeling about that, what that looks like for you. But with all that being said, let's do a regression hypnosis together. So I want to go out with a bang for all you guys. So let's just choose an emotion that you've had recently that's been negative, or a trigger that you've had recently that's been negative, that you've had difficulty figuring out, like, what's the root of this? Why does this thing bother me so much? So just think of something that's really been sticking in your craw, something that you just, can't seem to let go of and keeps bothering you, or has just been really intensely bothering you recently. And tap into how that makes you feel when that thing happens, or when you think about it, or anything like that. And that's the emotion that we're going to use to bring you back to its origin. So if you're ready, let's go in together. So go ahead and close your eyes. Take a nice deep breath. Just get really present in your body for a moment. And bringing your awareness to your heart and the space just below your heart. This is where your soul resides, your truest self. So awakening this, activating this, feeling the energy of this divine spark within you, expanding outward, really inviting your higher self to take up residence in your physical body. Mentally and energetically letting go of anything you brought in with you from the outside world. Anything that hasn't been serving you, anything you've been carrying around that doesn't even belong to you, burdens you've been carrying for others, the weight of the world from your shoulders. Just let it all drop. Let it all go. And asking your higher self now to protect you, place a protective bubble around you so that all you're in connection with right now is your higher self, the highest levels of your higher self, and source energy at the highest point of light. So that all guidance that you get and all awarenesses that you have are pure, coming directly from you or source. Feeling a cord of light from your heart up through the center of your brain and up to the highest point of light, connecting into source, plugging in. And I'd like you to begin now, alternating tapping your hands. So you'll tap your right hand, and then your left, and then your right, and then your left. And you just keep that going throughout this recording until I tell you to stop. This activates your whole brain, helping you to reprocess whatever comes up. And in this safe space that's created by your higher self, you can begin to let go of the shields and walls and barriers you put up around you in the real world. Noticing all the walls you have up around you, and letting them fall. Noticing the shields and the weapons you've been carrying, and put them down. Removing your armor and your helmet and any internal armor, anywhere inside you that feels closed off or constricted. Just remove those metal sheets, those bars, those blocks. And every layer that you remove allows you to relax a little deeper and to open a little more, to receive exactly what it is that you need this time. And feeling yourself sinking into deeper relaxation. It's as though all of your tension and all of your hyper alertness is just melting and dissolving away. And you're feeling softer and floppier and more relaxed, more open, continuing to tap. And now, bringing your awareness to the trigger, the feeling, the situation that's been bothering you. And just sit with that for a moment, replaying it, letting the feelings come up as strongly as you can. And we ask our higher selves and our subconscious mind to bring us back to the origin of this feeling, of this trigger, the very first time you experienced this. So just continue to feel the feeling and let the feeling bring you automatically back to the first time you experienced it. And I want you to go back even further than you were expecting. You may automatically think of things that happened 5 years ago, 10 years ago. Go back further. Many things come from early, early childhood. Some things come from infancy or toddlerhood. Some things come from in utero. Some things come from other lifetimes. And some things come from ancestors who've been through something similar. So just continue to feel that feeling and let it bring you back to the very first time you encountered that trigger, that feeling. And when I count from 3 down to 1, you'll be back inside the version of you that first experienced this as a trigger. 3, 2, 1, in. And now just taking up residence in this past version. Just feeling what it feels like to be inside this past version of you, whether in this lifetime, another lifetime, or within an ancestor of yours. Just trust whatever comes to mind. Even if it feels like you're making it up, just let yourself be there. Just feel it. Notice how similar or different it feels than being in your own body. Beginning to notice what's going on around this version of you. Notice if you're inside or outside, if you're alone or there are others around you. Notice what the situation is that's happening right now, or if something has just happened prior to this moment. And just take it in, whatever comes to you. You might have a very vivid image, or you might just have a vague perception. It doesn't matter. You don't have to be perfect at visualizing. For some of you, you'll only be hearing what's going on around you. For some, you'll only be feeling what's going on around you. Just trust whatever's coming and let yourself really immerse yourself in that moment and how it felt to be this past version of you. and how this moment felt and everything that brings up for you. And now I want you to step outside of this past version of you. And I want you to share your perspective, your wisdom with this past version. You've done a lot of work on yourself and you know what they need to hear. You know what they need to learn. And ask them what they need most in this moment. Whatever that is, give that to them. Now imagine your divine team is surrounding you both. And they're helping to heal this moment. They're helping to heal this trigger at its root, showing you then and now that you're safe, that you're unconditionally loved. All is well. Open to receive their wisdom, their guidance, and their healing, trusting what comes through for you at this time. And this beautiful iridescent light shows up above you. And it begins to just wash you clean, then and now. It's like a shower of light that washes through you and this past version. And there's a drain at your feet, and all the old garbage and fear and pain and reactivity is being washed down the drain and replaced with this light. And I want you to just surrender to receive this now. Receive from your team, receive this light, and you can stop tapping and just let this light wash through you. Let your team work on you. Feel the changes inside yourself. Notice the changes in your past self. And then hold that past version of you to you so tightly. They begin to merge with you. They begin to integrate into you, bringing this new peace, this new wisdom, this healing, this inner child healing. And letting that soak into every cell, every molecule of your being, every level, layer, and aspect of your being. It is done. It is done. It is done. And placing the tips of your fingers together, almost like prayer position. And keeping your eyes closed, but gazing your eyeballs downward. And this helps to set this healing more permanently. Sets the intention that this is set. No more going back to old patterns. And we give thanks and ask that this healing, blessing, and clearing continue till it is whole, complete, perfect, and permanent. That any shifting or transitioning that occurs is done with total grace and ease. That we be grounded to the earth, fully focused and functional on the physical plane, while still completely aware of and guided by our own divinity, approaching life with a sense of adventure and an open heart. Always centered in the highest truth of our highest self. You are awake, you are alert, you're in perfect balance and harmony. Coming back to your body and back to the room. And you can do this anytime that you feel the need to go looking for the root of any issue. If you can't figure out, okay, when was the first time I felt this way, or when is the first time I struggled with something like this, or where did this issue come from? You can do this process and that'll help bring you back to that root. I do find that this has to be done more than once. So I would just suggest doing this one round on the thing, but then plugging in whatever those memories are that come up during that round into the click track. So you would kind of freak out about the current thing that's bothering you while you play the click track, and then acknowledge this memory and any other memories that came up in the course of this exercise or just that pop in while you're doing the click track on it. And that'll help get you more permanent clearance on the issue so you don't have to keep coming back and doing the exercise on the same issue over and over again before it finally goes for good. So this is more of a root finding exercise than it is permanent clearance on things. Some people get permanent clearance by doing that exercise, but for the most part, I find that PS Tech really helps to finalize it, where doing any kind of EFT or hypnosis, you have to keep doing it until it like makes its way out of the layers of your brain, where the PS Tech tends to, because it's using so many modalities, really kind of knocks it out much more quickly. So for what that's worth. So that's it. This may be the last episode. It may not be. So we will check back in this fall. In the meantime, I will still be on Instagram. And I'll be changing my name back to April Adams something or other. I don't know what yet. And I'm also on Facebook, both as a business page and a personal page. You're welcome to friend me or follow me. And I'll keep you all posted on what I decide. And I'd love to hear your feedback on how this has affected you. And thank you all for watching and or listening so far. I really appreciate it. And I'm here if you need any guidance. Thank you.